From classic Ben 10 to Alien Force, then Ultimate Alien, and after that Omniverse, and finally, we ended up with Ben 10 Reboot, the one that brought everything back to square one, but with the kiddie vibe. It's the weakest series, sure, but I watched the whole thing, and honestly, it's actually fun, even if it'll never reach the greatness of the original. So let's break it down and dive deep into this cartoon. First off, you gotta know this Ben 10 world isn't the main universe. Nope, it's actually a whole different dimension from the other Ben 10 versions. And that's the reason for all those differences in the world, which I'm gonna talk about a lot right now, and yeah, I'll be comparing it a ton to the original versions. First off, let's talk about Grandpa Max. We all remember how he was in the original series. Wise, full of deep, meaningful words, and with a backstory packed with details. From being one of the legendary plumbers to even marrying an alien. But sadly, in the reboot, all of that's completely gone. Grandpa Max here is just a goofy, clueless character with zero background worth mentioning. No backstory, no plumbers, and not even a glimpse of that old wisdom. If anything, his behavior has become overly childish, to the point where Ben and Gwen sometimes seem way smarter than him. Sure, there's a tiny hint that he had a past, but we barely saw any of it. So let's talk about the little we actually got. As a kid, Max had a close friend named Phil, and a weird fear of goats. When they grew older, Phil helped him build a satellite device so they could communicate with aliens. In his 20s, Max was part of a biker gang.
Sort of reminds me of my 20s.
Wait, Grandpa, were you in a biker gang?
He also loved playing badminton in college with a group of friends who called themselves the Fantastic Four. Meanwhile, Kevin was an unpopular kid at school, dealing with a rough home life, until one day he had this strange dream, or maybe an inspiration, to design the Omnitrix. And he actually built it. But here's the twist. It wasn't really his idea. Vilgax had been sending him signals, guiding him to make it. Now, about Ben's Omnitrix origin, in the original series, we all know exactly how he got it. But in the reboot, the show never explains how it ended up on his wrist. Still, here's the story we got. Far away, on a planet called Galvan Prime, lived the smartest beings in the entire galaxy. Their endless thirst for knowledge pushed them to create flying drones that traveled across the universe, collecting and cataloging DNA from countless stars. All of this priceless data was stored in their massive central computer, the ultimate hub of cosmic knowledge. Then suddenly, a power outage hit, threatening to wipe out all that valuable information. The cause? Parasites that fed on the computer's energy. Luckily, a robot stepped in and drove the parasites away. This planet was home to Asmuth. When he tried to turn a cold, empty moon into a place full of light, his ship crashed right into it. That accident spread his tech across the planet, filling it with creatures that looked a lot like Upgrade. And yeah, that's the same planet Upgrade came from. Back when Asmuth was just a young genius, famous across the galaxy and loved everywhere, he was secretly building the Omnitrix. While working, he met another young prodigy named Vilgax and decided to take him on as his student, his apprentice. But Vilgax had darker plans. He wanted the Omnitrix to rule the universe. Asmuth wasn't having any of that. He coded the watch to respond only to his telepathic commands, and even left half of Vilgax's DNA trapped inside the Omnitrix before sending it away to a planet with not so smart inhabitants. From there, he kept a close eye on it, and that's how the watch eventually landed with a kid named Ben Tennyson. In the end, Asmuth was exiled to the Null Void, punished for creating a secret weapon without permission. But here's the twist. The first one to ever get the Omnitrix wasn't Ben. It was Billy Billions, coming from the future to steal it, planning to destroy Ben and take all that power for himself. Luckily, future Ben stepped in at the right time, fixing everything so that the Omnitrix would land with the original Ben. Vilgax, though, wasn't done. He sent a swarm of drones to retrieve the watch because half his DNA was inside, making the Omnitrix half alive. The drones found it, but Ben destroyed them all. That's when his real adventure began, transforming into a whole lineup of aliens. Now, about the actual cartoon events, there are tons of episodes, but honestly, most of them just random filler. No real story buildup. Still, some key events stand out, and that's what we're diving into here. Throughout the episodes, we saw a mix of classic villains returning from the original series, plus brand new ones unique to the reboot. I'll break down each appearance, show where new villains came in, and compare them with the originals, their designs, motives, and role in the story. Early on, we meet two brand new villains, Maurice and Sydney. These guys plan to steal the rust bucket while Ben's cleaning it. He fights them, and of course it escalates into a worm monster battle. Ben wins, transforming into his first three aliens: Accelerate, Forearms, and Cannonbolt, all straight from the classic series. Next, during a camping trip, we get three new robotic villains. They've got no emotions, trying to mess with the weather. Meanwhile, Ben struggles with the Omnitrix glitching, causing weird transformations. In the end, he shuts them down. Later, when the family visits the boardwalk, they're attacked by a giant robot built by a brand new villain, Steam Smythe. He's a character that didn't exist in the original, a tech-hating inventor obsessed with bringing back the past. At first, Ben struggles because of his fear of sea creatures, but eventually he takes Steam Smythe down using forearms. Another villain shows up, the Bee Queen. Honestly, she's just dumb, not worth much time here. Then there's the crazy babysitter. Yeah, the one who turned Ben and Gwen into toddlers, planning to keep herself young by shrinking kids. Totally new and definitely creepy. Speaking of Gwen, this is where she picks up the magic staff, turning into Lucky Girl. That part was actually exciting, just like in the classic series. But sadly, they kind of forgot about it right after. Hex makes a comeback too, still keeping his dark aura, chasing after the magic staff. But just like before, he fails. And of course, Zombozo returns. During a badminton match with Grandpa Max's old friends, Zombozo tries to control the minds of both the players and the audience. Thanks to Max and his crew, they shut him down. After that, Animo shows up trying to turn circus animals into monsters, and even kidnaps Grandpa Max to turn him into one. But after a long fight, Ben shows him a piece of his past, and that makes him stop, finally getting caught. In the reboot, honestly, he doesn't have much of a backstory. We only know he was a normal kid who loved science, and worked as an apprentice under a well-known scientist. Later in life, he set up a farm powered by mutated animals, something they call Animo Farm. But in his original story, things were way darker. About 5 years before the main events, he was a respected researcher in veterinary medicine. He completely lost it when he started messing with animal DNA, trying to create super creatures. His career ended the moment his experiments were exposed. He dreamed of winning the Verities Prize, a huge award in veterinary science, but the honor went to another doctor named Kelly. That failure drove him insane. He disappeared for 5 years, then comes Charmcaster. Now, in the reboot, she's nothing like the original. She's not related to Hex at all. No family ties, no deep lore. Here, she's just an independent villain with a sarcastic edge, but way less depth and no dramatic backstory. Another new villain pops up, Timbuktu. This guy tries to play hero, but secretly causes disasters just to save the day and look good. Classic fake hero energy. Then there's Lagrange, a pretty basic villain. He spreads chaos through illegal street races, wrecking Ben's race car, then has to use Upgrade to take him down. We also get a group of throwaway villains, biker animals that try to destroy a golf course. Ben stops them, of course. This is also where he first uses Wildvine. But here's the shocker, the design is totally changed. Instead of plant tentacles, Wildvine suddenly has legs. Huge redesign. Next up is Billy Billions, honestly one of the better villains. He tries to steal Sumo Slammer cards and even the Rust Bucket. Using all his fancy tech, he gives Ben a hard time, but in the end, Ben beats him and takes everything back. Then comes Michael Morningstar, the energy-draining villain. Ben and Gwen spot him while visiting a movie set. He's feeding on people's energy, even trying to drain them both. Luckily, they manage to stop him before he causes more damage. Another interesting villain is DJ Decibel, the sound manipulator. During one of his shows, he kidnaps the entire audience and demands $1 billion, threatening to sink Portland into the ocean. Ben steps in, and even though it's tough, he manages to shut him down. One of my personal favorites here is Jingo. He literally comes out of a TV screen, and at first, he actually hangs out with Ben, but soon his comedy gets out of control, dangerous even. Ben ends up defeating him with logic. This episode felt super close to Game Over from classic Ben 10, back when Ben got trapped inside a Sumo Slammer video game. Now the rest of Season 1 is basically a cycle. Every villain we've talked about makes another appearance, from Hex to Billy Billions, Maurice and Sydney, Zombozo, Dr. Animo, and Lagrange. Each time, Ben faces them and comes out on top. And this is also where Ben first transforms into Stinkfly, whose design was completely changed too. Now we hit a huge moment in the show when a brand new alien shows up inside the watch, and when Ben picked it, it turned out to be Vilgax. This thing was insanely strong. He took down one of Animo's monsters like it was nothing. Right after that, the Omnitrix started acting up, switching Ben into different aliens without him being able to control it. Then after a tunnel accident, Ben saved a guy named Phil, only for 3 mercenaries to show up, trying to steal the watch. These guys actually showed up in the classic series for the same reason, and one of them even looked like Diamond Head and ended up as Ben's ally back then. But here it played out differently. Ben still managed to shake them off. Bill tried to figure out what was going on with the Omnitrix and warned Ben not to keep using it, but of course, Ben didn't listen. He turned into Vilgax again until this mysterious figure appeared. Turns out it was literally half of Vilgax's being, the same one we talked about earlier. He tricked Ben, stole the Omnitrix, transformed back into full Vilgax, and started tearing things apart. Those mercenaries stepped in to help, but Vilgax was too strong. He crushed Ben, took off, and vanished. When they tracked him down, Ben went after him, and we got an all-out epic battle. Vilgax was still overpowering, but Ben turned into Upgrade, merged with a ship, blew it up, and that's how it all wrapped up. And that mirrors the end of Season 1 in the classic version, only with a few big twists. Back then, Vilgax hijacked a spaceship at a space station to get home, but as expected, Ben stepped in. Another huge fight went down, and eventually Ben beat him, tossing Vilgax into the ocean. After that, Ben and the team went back to their usual adventures across the country, taking down different villains. But since Vilgax was stuck on Earth, he teamed up with Animo to extract DNA from Ben's watch. He later betrayed Animo, obviously, but when they tried to pull it off, a glitch in the Omnitrix went down, one that would have consequences later. The upside? That glitch actually made some of Ben's transformations more powerful. In the end, Animo was forced to team up with Ben to fight Vilgax. After a long battle, they managed to take him down together. From there, Ben continued his adventures, but this time with evolved alien forms. They fought off all kinds of villains, including Hex, who actually got the chance to kill Ben, but didn't. Turns out he had some kind of code refusing to kill a kid. Later, drones attacked the team, and it turned out Vilgax was behind them. He had already built an advanced airship. Ben tried to stop him, failed, and Vilgax escaped. A new villain also showed up, King Coil. This happened when Ben and Gwen were visiting an animal care center. King Coil had this wild power to control snakes. At first, Ben was terrified of them, but in the end, he pushed through his fear and beat Coil. Honestly though, he was kind of a boring villain. Then, while the team was riding a train, bounty hunters appeared, trying to snatch the Omnitrix. A huge fight broke out, and Ben barely managed to beat them. One of the hunters even looked a lot like Diamond Head. They almost sent the train out of control, but of course, Ben stopped it just in time. After that, most of Season 2 focused on villains coming back for revenge. King Coil, the Circus Bros, Zingo Charmcaster, the Robot Brothers, Steam Smythe, and of course, Dr. Animo. But the real threat was Vilgax, teaming up with Zombozo to build a global hypnosis device. They attacked Ben to steal the Omnitrix, announcing their plan to create an army of aliens while brainwashing humans. But no surprise, after a brutal fight, Ben stopped the plan and escaped Vilgax's ship. And remember how we talked at the very start about Ben getting the Omnitrix? Well, here's the crazy part. During a fight with Billy Billions, he blasted Ben's watch with a laser, opening a time portal that threw Ben back to the exact day he first got it. That's when future Ben's Omnitrix disappeared, because Billy got to young Ben first. He even transformed into 4 arms and fought him. Things got totally chaotic, with everyone scattered across different timelines, shifting into alternate forms. It was a total mess. But as always, Gwen stepped in. She managed to return the Omnitrix to the original Ben from the correct timeline. And just like that, the time loop was closed, the crisis ended, and balance was restored. This is where things get crazy in the cartoon. Ben and Gwen jump into a go-kart race, but out of nowhere, a giant robot crashes the party. In that moment, Ben hears a voice in his head telling him transform into Shock Rock. He does, smashes the robot, but then realizes Vilgax was inside the whole time. Ben locks him in an energy cage, but Vilgax warns him, don't listen to the voices. Of course, Ben ignores it like always. Later, while sleepwalking, Ben unknowingly builds a massive robot, one that turns on him. During the fight, Ben shifts into Shock Rock again, and this time he deliberately unleashes Vilgax from his prison. Vilgax yells, don't do it, but Ben refuses to back down, and that decision sends a signal into space. The big reveal, Shock Rock species, the Fulmini, are coming to invade Earth, and here's the twist. Ben and Vilgax are forced to team up for the first time ever. Enemy of my enemy, right? The only way to stop the invasion is from inside the Omnitrix itself. Together, they dive in, fighting through chaos until they reach the gateway. But then, boom, Glitch shows up, a mysterious figure who looks like a version of Ben 10 himself. Glitch explains there's a glitch inside the Omnitrix, caused by Animo and Vilgax's meddling earlier. That's why Ben's been getting those weird alien upgrades. Glitch takes on a Ben-like form, trying to repair the Omnitrix. And after that, the Fulmini leader bursts in, trying to force the gate open. A brutal battle begins, and the leader actually takes control of Ben's mind. Vilgax tries to intervene, but gets banished into the void. The gate opens, Fulmini soldiers start pouring out. Meanwhile, Gwen and Max drive a car straight into the Omnitrix, arriving just in time to face Ben and try to bring him back to normal. In one wonderful moment, everyone merges with the Omnitrix's energy, transforming into united aliens ready to fight. Together, they overpower the leader, slam the gate shut, and end the invasion. In the aftermath, Glitch fuses with the Rust Bucket, transforming it into a brand new high-tech family ride. Season 3 kicks in, but honestly, most episodes are just villains coming back only to get knocked down again. Still, there are some key highlights. First, the family gets a plane, so traveling the world just got easier. New aliens show up on Ben's watch, and we get our very first look at Forever Night. But the biggest twist? Kevin makes his debut with his own messed up Omnitrix full of twisted aliens. And yeah, he still hates Ben. The two clash, and in that fight, Ben goes humongosaur for the first time. It ends with Kevin falling into a river while Forever Knight watches from the shadows. Soon after, Knight recruits Kevin, threatening to use Gwen against him. Kevin actually tries to warn Ben, but Ben brushes him off and they throw down hard. Eventually, they're forced to team up to save Gwen, and it's clear Kevin's got a bit of a crush on her. Then Charmcaster takes control of Kevin, forcing him to fight Ben. Her magic mutates him into a horrific alien fusion, exactly like what happened in the original series. With Ben's help, Kevin breaks free, and from that point you can feel their rivalry start to shift into something closer to friendship. The bounty hunters return, but this time Ben teams up with one of them, Tetrax, against the other two. Together they win, just like in the classic timeline. After that, Kevin tries to steal the rust bucket under Forever Knight's orders, but betrays him at the last moment. Knight steps in personally, forcing Ben and Kevin to unite again to push him back. As time goes on, Kevin truly starts to cooperate with Ben, like when they save trapped civilians together. Ben later battles Forever Knight for the legendary samurai sword, only to realize it's just a fake. Things drag for a while with filler episodes until Ben suddenly disappears. Gwen and Max ask Phil for help searching for him. Meanwhile, Forever Knight is secretly gathering every villain Ben has ever faced at one table, and shockingly, Ben himself is also among them. The master plan? Open a time gate that severs all contact with aliens in the past, erasing the Omnitrix from history. At first, Ben fights alongside Forever Knight, defending him from Kevin and the others. But once the truth comes out, he switches sides, battling Knight in the past while Gwen and Max fight villains in the present. In the end, Kevin sacrifices himself, taking down Forever Knight and saving everyone. After that, Forever Knight kidnaps the team and forces Ben to fight inside a brutal battle arena. In the end, he faces Kevin, but instead of tearing each other apart, the two team up, smash their way out, and escape together. This whole episode feels almost identical to Grudge Match from Alien Force, and honestly, Season 3 of the reboot is packed with callbacks to Alien Force, like the episode Beware the Scarecrow, which is nearly the same as Camp Fear, or Heads of the Family, a straight-up parallel to Permanent Retirement from the classic. They even throw in scenes mocking the original series.
Quinn, I'm just a bad dude.
No, Kyle, we're not giving up on you.
Blech! Why so serious? I hope this gets
Most of the rest of this season is just Ben and Kevin's rocky relationship. Fighting, clashing, then teaming up against a bigger threat. The problem, it happens way too often. And yeah, it mirrors Season 4 of the original, where Kevin became their buddy literally from the very first episode of Alien Force. Alright, moving on to Season 4, this time the team's adventures expand beyond America. First stop, Mexico, where Ben stops Animo from turning a chicken and a snake into a terrifying monster. And here's the twist, Ben can now evolve aliens into stronger forms, just like Ultimate Alien. This season totally leans into that vibe, with a special key that boosts Omnitrix transformations, something Gwen actually discovers. From there, we're hopping across the globe, Rome, Brazil, Japan, Egypt, and more. Each episode feels random, but the theme stays clear. Every past villain makes a comeback, each with a fresh plan in a new country. But this time, they all end up captured for good, giving the season some real closure. Meanwhile, Ben and Kevin's friendship grows stronger, and even Grandpa Max's bond with the kids feels warmer and closer than ever. Now let's hit the movie. At this point, Ben's just bored, fighting the same old villains over and over. He gets pumped when he hears a meteor is heading straight for Earth. Finally, something bigger. Phil helps Ben prep for space travel, even upgrading him with a new alien form that lets him breathe in outer space. But when Ben launches toward the meteor, he loses control and ends up inside a portal that drags him to the world of cosmic frogs, where he's accused of being Vilgax himself. Back on Earth, Max and Gwen run into Kevin, who's struggling with glitches in the Omnitrix. In space, Ben gets thrown into a trial. Tetrax shows up to defend him, but Ben still gets exiled into the void. There, he meets Azimuth, who strips the Omnitrix away for a while, forcing Ben to pass tough trials to prove he deserves the watch. Along the way, he battles classic aliens, crushes the challenges, and eventually returns to Earth thanks to Tetrax. Meanwhile, it's revealed the meteor was carrying Vilgax all along. He reaches Kevin demanding the Omnitrix, claiming he actually inspired Kevin to build it in the first place. Vilgax fuses with the Omnitrix and becomes insanely powerful. Kevin merges with Glitch to fight back, but it's not enough. Just when things look hopeless, Ben arrives in time. After an all-out brawl, Ben unlocks Way Big, towers over the battlefield, and finally takes Vilgax down for good. After that, Alien X shows up out of nowhere, attacks Ben, and steals steals the Omnitrix. Right then, Grandpa Max appears, but from a completely different dimension. That's when we realize this isn't the original world and Alien X is hopping across dimensions to collect every single Omnitrix from every version of Ben 10. Now it's our Ben's turn. Alien X comes straight for him. The fight begins, but Alien X is insanely powerful and Ben barely manages to escape. But almost instantly, another version of Max arrives, only for Alien X to track them down again. After a second fight, Alien X actually snatches the Omnitrix. Later, another Ben appears. This time it's the Alien Force version from the Plumbers. Except in this dimension, the Plumbers don't even exist. Or at least that's what we thought. Still, even he can't take Alien X down. Then Ultimate Alien Ben shows up, but even with both of them together, they're still powerless against him. That's when Ben makes a bold move. He goes out to gather backup. He comes back with Omniverse Ben, Classic Ben, and even Gwen with the Omnitrix, the same version we saw back in a classic episode. Now it's an all-out legendary showdown. Everyone jumps into the fight against Alien X, and Ben finally manages to take his watch back. Together, they actually beat him. And here's the twist. Turns out the enemy was another Ben all along, but way older. He only did this because Vilgax killed Gwen and Max in his own dimension. After that, he swore it would never happen again, so he started jumping across universes, stealing every Omnitrix from every Ben out there. Honestly, this episode was built straight up as fan service for classic Ben 10 lovers, and I enjoyed every second of it. After that, our characters grow up. Gwen becomes the president of the United States, and somehow she even flips the villains to her side. Zombozo, Hex, all of them. Even Kevin, who's now stuck in an alien form he can't escape. Gwen and Ben, they've split ways a long time ago. But when a new threat shows up to wipe out Earth, Gwen and Kevin try to stop it, and they have no choice but to call Ben for help. His life is in a really bad place, and he hates that Gwen's the president now. Still, he agrees, and he travels back in time to stop his younger self from ever using the Omnitrix to turn into the monster that will eventually become their enemy in the future. But when they return, everything's already destroyed. The only way left is brutal. Ben has to transform into that same creature and merge with it from the inside, destroying it completely. They pull it off, save the world, and each one goes back to their own timeline. And now summer's over. It's back to school. Ben's bummed out, doesn't want to deal with it, when suddenly he runs into Generator Rex. They don't trust each other at first, and boom, they're fighting. Rex even smashes the Omnitrix, and some weird radiation blasts out, turning people into Omnitrix monsters. Then Agent 6 shows up to arrest them for all the chaos. But it gets worse. Hex arrives, controlling all the mutated aliens to build his own army. After a long string of battles, the team finally pulls together. Rex upgrades the Omnitrix with his tech, resetting everyone back to normal. The story ends on a happy note for once. And yeah, that episode looked exactly like Ben 10, but it was actually a crossover from Generator Rex. Honestly, I might make a full video about that series if you guys want it. Alright, let's dive into the most important aliens of Ben, and the story behind each one of them. We kick things off with Heat Blast, straight from the planet Pyros. A world made entirely of fire and lava, where the locals thrive on extreme sports that push them against insane heat and brutal conditions. Their most famous tradition? The climb up Mount Helios, a massive volcano, and when the planet overheats, they drop an ice egg inside the volcano to cool it down for a moment, then the party begins. Now let's talk about the slapbacks. They come from Ecoplectin, a super advanced tech world. Their thing? Splitting into multiple, denser versions of themselves. But over time, their planet hit a massive problem, overcrowding. So a group of them decided to leave in search of more space, and somehow they ended up on Heat Blast Planet. At first, things got tense with the Pyrosians, but once they explained, it turned out all they needed was a little room. Over time, both sides learn from each other and build a peaceful life together. Next up, the planet Connect, where everything moves at insane speed. They even have this wild coming-of-age ritual. Kids have to run through a stormy course to grab lightning skates, a rare tool you can only get from a dangerous creature. Whoever wins gets the power to run even faster. These beings once held speed records across the galaxy, until one day things slowed down. But then, the Arborian Telerotus showed up. At first, the Kinets thought it was an invasion and geared up for war, but instead, the newcomers brought a gift, a mysterious sphere for their king. That sphere boosted their speed again, and just like that, the slow age was over. Now let's head to Arboria, the homeland of Cannonbolt, a tropical paradise with golden beaches, bright skies, a thriving culture, schools, cars, tech, basically non-stop fun. Everything was perfect until the Vaxasaurians showed up. Brave creatures, but aggressive and kinda rude, sparking a war with the Arborians. But eventually both sides realized fighting got them nowhere, life was way better enjoyed together. Meanwhile, on Neradino, a planet filled with dinosaurs, things were brutal but fun, because their favorite pastime was wrestling in giant arenas arenas, especially against the Voxosaurians, in matches that were more like wild but friendly brawls. Now, over on Diamond Head's homeworld, there was once a dazzling crystal kingdom, stable and powerful. Two factions of the same species lived there, but constant conflict kept the planet at war. What they didn't know was that deep underground, distant relative lived in isolation, waiting for the right time to rise. When the surface factions reached their breaking point, a new threat suddenly appeared, forcing them to join forces for the very first time. Together they won, and real unity finally began. But peace didn't last long. The Fulmini invaded, looking to steal their rare crystals. For the first time in history, all three factions fully united and forged a devastating weapon to push the invaders out. With its power, they saved their world. Then comes the planet Galmus, a massive rocky sphere torn apart by civil war. Its people built a colossal ship carrying thousands of soldiers to invade other worlds for resources. Their next target was Koros, home of the Tetramans. At first, it looked abandoned, but suddenly, primitive yet insanely strong creatures attacked, forcing the Galmans to retreat. That's when the Four Arms tribe took control, perfectly suited to the planet's savage environment, ready to defend it against any invaders, even against creatures like Stinkfly. Finally, we head to the world of Wildvine, a lush green jungle at the heart of the galaxy, where the Florana live in harmony. At the center of it all stands the ancient world tree, the very source of the planet's balance. The Florana dedicate their lives to protecting it, knowing their entire world depends on its survival. And with that, we've wrapped up the story of Ben's aliens and their incredible homeworlds. Now, let's move on to the future of these characters after everything ended. It's pretty clear that Ben went back to school and home once summer was over, and of course he grew into a teenager just like we saw in the original series. Maybe he steps away from hero work for a while, maybe even looks for a wife, possibly an alien like his grandma. But eventually, he'd dive back into adventures as a young leader, and could even found the Plumbers in this timeline, expanding it on a galactic scale. As for Gwen, she might chase a path in law and politics, while Kevin becomes her future husband. And without a doubt, Gwen would rise to become President of the United States, with Kevin right there supporting her in missions and battles ahead. Now, Grandpa Max, it only makes sense that by this point he's passed away. He was already old to begin with, but he left behind a massive legacy for Ben. Most of the time, Ben lives a calm life, but adventure still finds him now and then. And maybe, after many years, the Omnitrix would pass on to a brand new kid, kicking off the next generation of heroes. Maybe even Ben's own son, and that's the wrap on the whole series. Let's be real, it had plenty of fun moments and cool ideas. People only hated on it because they compared it to the original. If the original didn't exist, I honestly think fans would have loved it way more. And truth is, this series is popular and loved by the new generation. It's mostly us older fans like me who disliked it at first, but yeah, my opinion has shifted a bit. Still, let's be honest, there were way too many random filler episodes, especially in season 4. Honestly, if that season didn't exist, the series would have been tighter because it barely had any important moments or special episodes compared to the earlier ones. Now, about the characters, you've seen the good and the bad sides already. The transformations were cool for the most part, but they could have been developed more. Some even lost their edge, like Wildvine and Stinkfly. The story overall? I'd say average, maybe leaning toward weak. I expected more, but the special episodes? Those were actually great, especially the Alien X one. Anyway, I've talked enough. That's the end of today's video. I hope I broke down the series in a simple, fun way for you guys. Don't forget to hit that like button and drop a sub. It helps a ton.